let's run sound. Let's turn over. And action!
So we were actually in post-production of Solace when we started pre-production of Dark Encounter, and that was quite a challenge, kind of figuring out the schedule, trying to make everything work, because obviously we were finishing a film and then starting another one in this sort of short amount of time.
I always wanted to do a UFO movie, but it's not a flying saucer movie, but lights in the sky kind of film. And then there was a separate idea I had, which is sort of the twist of the film, about a little girl who's gone missing, but a family member might be responsible. It was a combination of the two separate ideas. They weren't scripts, they were just ideas. Then when I combined them, I felt like it just worked. These visitors, they knew what had happened to Maisie. And the way I see it is, I suppose it's a little bit like us, modern society, watching with our drones or satellites, watching like a tribe in the Amazon jungle, who have no idea of modern technology, never seen modern man, they're stuck. They have no idea we're watching them. And then we're seeing something happen, like we witness something. Maybe the tribe gets ill and we know the illness. So we land in helicopters to help. We're going to give them a vaccine, but we're going to land in helicopters. So if you can imagine these tribesmen, we're there to help, but we've suddenly shown ourselves and they're throwing spears at us, they're panicking, and they're running. Obviously, it's scary. You've got a big helicopter coming down, and then you've got these guys coming out in suits, but we grab them and it just looks villainous and we're grabbing them and injecting them, but at the end of the day they're better and they get better. So that's how I see it, that these beings have come down to the family, which are a primitive race compared to the beings, but the beings are here to help.
So Laura had a vulnerability to her, and I felt like she really truly brought something like a strength, but a fragile strength.
She brought a really good quality to Olivia. She played it so well that you can really see the vulnerability in her eyes. She just looked tired.
There's been parts before where it's a mother who's lost her child, and I haven't wanted to do it because I would rather play the police officer who is involved in investigating the case, but because of what happens, it's not the standard. We've seen it so many times where it's that the mother's stricken with grief and the shock of finding out, and it just takes its toll on you. And I just thought, I don't want to do that, but this is different. It feels like there's a sort of awe-inspiring hope that comes from it, and it's infinite, this infinite world, and more than she could ever dream of in her darkness. And I like the sci-fi fantasy aspect of it. With this torture she's going through, not knowing if her daughter's alive or dead, but assuming after a year of her being missing that she probably is dead. And at that point, you probably hope that your kid is dead, because what is happening to them is even worse than death. The dark places that she's been to in her mind this year, where previous it's a parent's fear, but it's actually she's living through this torture of not knowing. And I think she's questioning her faith, and you don't really see much of that in the film, but I think the devastation of loss and the torture of not knowing, it's like, it could be seen as just that, like it's all in her head.
So the first thing that attracted me to the film was the writing. Beautifully written, very detailed. Everything was there for a reason. It wasn't overwritten. And the way he approached this story, where you pick up this family a year into their grief and how they're dealing with that, and then suddenly the UFOs or outsiders who have arrived to kind of explain what happened to their daughter.
Maisie!
I loved Mel's kind of masculine roughness, but he also brought a level of, again, vulnerability.
He is tearing the family apart. Of course, what happened to Maisie is tearing the family apart, but really, you can still stay together, stay strong together, and Ray is stopping that happening. He's kind of splitting them apart because of how he's being, how he just can't handle it.
I guess he's a regular kind of guy, small town, married his childhood sweetheart. They have a young family. You pick them up, sadly, a year into them losing their child, their daughter, who went missing a year ago. So when you pick him up in the film, he's struggling. He's been sleeping on the couch. He's 6 months into kind of really questioning whether he can carry on in this marriage. You know, also struggling with his relationship with his son, and, you know, he's questioning whether he can do this anymore.
You know, within 2 pages of reading, I thought, well, this is a great script. You know, there's something about it. You know, you read quite a few. The cinematography is very clear when you read it in terms of what as a visual the films could possibly be. And actually, having got up here and doing it, it is that visual, and it is exactly as you'd seen it.
Grant is a hidden gem of an actor. He has such emotional power behind his performance.
It could have been done really distastefully. One wrong look can throw this in a different direction and it be really distasteful. And Grant always done the right thing. And sometimes we didn't know what the right thing was. He victimised Kenneth. You could say he's wrong. It's like, oh no, you're victimising the baddie. But he's a victim of his own thoughts and what's going on. He's ill, he's unwell.
I have read some of Carl's, the writer-director's read some of Carl's other writing and think he's brilliant. So when he approached me with this as an idea, I was already very receptive to it.
Billy is a bit of a outcast. He's different to his brothers.
That's why I think Sid kind of works for the role, because he is different from Ray and Morgan.
It isn't that people are mean to him, it's just that he doesn't really fit in because he's a bit of an outsider. He's very emotionally aware, but has obviously been raised in an environment where those values aren't necessarily prized, especially in men. So that duality carries him through a lot of the film.
So with Spike, we had to find an actor who was old enough so we didn't have the restrictions on schedule. Obviously, with child actors, you can only work with them for a certain amount of time. So with Spike, he was the perfect age for production and also the perfect age to play it down for Noah.
It was one of those qualities where when we saw his audition tape, we liked it from the get-go.
It's this 15-year-old kid who's in that place between knowing he has to be strong, but also he's young and he's scared. He's being protected by his family, but he really does want to fight back and help.
I had actually worked with Carl before. I did a character in his previous film, Solace, and so I knew I really enjoyed working with him.
With Arlene, we kind of struggled with her character.
And it wasn't until Alice was cast, she brought to it what was missing.
I think Arlene is quite, as she is, you know, she's someone that what you see is what you get kind of thing.
You know, I like scripts that you think they're about one thing, the narrative is about something, but it's working on so many different levels, not subtextual, but metaphysical levels almost. When I read the script, I found it quite, you know, the celestial elements involved in it. It added it gives a certain angelic quality to it in a strange way. Although it's a really interesting crossover between an abduction story, which is very current. Everything's about child abduction these days, but also the whole idea of a child abduction story merging with some sci-fi is a really good take, and that's what really interested me in the script and in the project. As a writer, I can only do so much. I bring, you know, everyone's got a bit of me in them as well, so you try and bring all this together, but you can never quite. And when you know you're working with a good actor, I think, like Vince, they harness it and they bring it to life. A scene with Mel, who plays Ray, which is where we talk about grief. And one of the things Morgan can do, which has made him a survivor in a way, is that he can talk about his grief. And I think a lot of the film is about grief and about how you cope with grief.
I don't want to talk about it, Morgan.
He needs you.
I do not want to talk about it, Morgan.
The makeup artist of Carl's last film, Solace, Mel, she was talking to Carl and they were looking for someone to play Reese, and she said, I know the guy because I just finished doing a job with her. She messaged me and said, can I, you know, give your number and your details to these people? And I said, yeah, sure. And within the hour, Carl had sent me the script. By the end of the day, I had read it. And then Carl and I got on the phone and that was it, yeah.
Nicholas really brought a lot of heart into the role. You really felt like he had been on this journey with this family throughout the years and the months that Maisie was missing. You could feel the weight of Maisie's disappearance on the sheriff. He feels personally responsible. He really cares for Olivia. He really cares for the family.
I think it's what Nicholas done to the role as well, made him so unique.
Reese comes in the beginning of the third act, and he sees you right through to the end of the film. And it's very, it's very complex the way he comes in and how he's just all of a sudden there. And so you're asking an audience to invest in him like that and go with him, and he will take you out of the film. That's quite hard.
So with Bridget, we went through a quite extensive casting period where our casting directors would send us self-tapes of all the kids that they had asked to tape. And it was really, really hard to kind of whittle down the right girl, because obviously she had to have that vulnerability and she had to have that innocence, but also in a way that the actual actress portraying Maisie understood what was happening and understood what the storyline meant without becoming overwhelmed. I don't think we necessarily picked her out as our first choice, but when we met her in person, we instantly knew that she had that level of intelligence and that level of understanding.
I was really nervous. It was my first time filming with a child, so I was probably more nervous than what she was.
The essence for me of what the emotive through line of the story is how, something terrible can happen in any life in real life, and, but somehow, you've got to try and find something positive from it. And I don't know how you do that when it comes to a 10-year-old girl going missing. There's plenty of that in the news and stuff you see all the time, and it's like, I don't know how people deal with it. I don't know how you deal with that. I have a daughter as well. I don't know how I could possibly deal with it.
I knew from the get-go I didn't want to have flying saucers. I actually thought simple would be better, and there's a lot of old pictures of just lights. They were just like Chinese lanterns kind of thing, which is probably what they were. They need to just be balls of light, balls of energy, and when the camera gets close you can feel their energy. And then we had concept art, so we got some designs done just so that I could say to the actors, this is what we're looking at. There's so many films about aliens, you can't have them look the same, otherwise it's like, oh, it's the same alien.
So our initial idea for the alien was to just have a guy in a suit.
Someone really thin and gangly, but then that's a guy in a suit. It's a bit weird. And
then we realised that it would be easier to create like a puppet. That way, we didn't have to feed them. All of those costs rolled into Artem's creation of Maurice, the alien that we fondly called him. I don't think it was a him. I think he was genderless.
We're not trying to make a mark and say, look at our alien. We're just trying to say, if you take much notice of the alien, it doesn't look like anything you've seen. It just looks different. It's got to be scary. But by the end of the movie, you realise that the aliens aren't actually evil. That there's another evil, and it's not the aliens. So at the same time, it needs to be this thing where you look at the aliens and they can be both horrific, but also when you find out they're good, that they're not horrific.
Yeah, and I kind of think it's a lost art, it's an art form. I'm really into Ray Harryhausen and things like that. It's like, I like it when there's been a sense of creativity behind a monster or a creature, that it's a piece of art that's been created.
He could be fully controlled and fully puppeteered by Artem's crew.
They had a separate hand for it, which could move its fingers and everything for different shots. But I knew from the get-go that there needs to be a little bit more to it, and that's when I think you get practical effects which look great. And then technology now, digital technology is so good, but you shouldn't rely on it 100%, so it's good to do a combination of the two. We couldn't find a fitting American farmhouse, so we had to find a house that had the same dimensions of what our sets would essentially have.
We actually found a location for our house exterior literally like a couple of minutes down from our main studio base, and that was a place called Toad Hall.
And then it was a full 100% CGI creation. And we shot there, we put tracking markers on the house, and we just shot it as normal. When we show the back garden, you might notice we only ever show looking down one way, we never look back. All we could include was just the steps of the veranda, so we took the steps and just put them there and just shot cleverly, trick photography, just shot everything the way we wanted to give the illusion that the house exists there. But the veranda itself was in the soundstage, in the studio, built onto the back of the downstairs set. In one soundstage we had the downstairs of the house, in another soundstage we had the upstairs of the house, and in another we had the basement, which then later got redressed into the dining room.
Mel's head on, so I'm getting married.
From the tomato sauce to a newspaper, to a magazine, even the Finding Maisie flyers, everything had to be designed, everything.
That's always the tricky thing, is when you arrive on like day one and here, that's your brother, and that's your wife, and they're your kids, and that's your dog, go. And that's where obviously the acting comes in, where you just create the illusion that you've known these people all your life. But what helps is the fact that the cast are kind and generous and good fun to be around, which means that you're relaxed on set, and so it just means that you can get the circuits created much quicker and the electricity passing through much quicker, and that's been the case with this.
The stages before we started filming, I've never had such a long, drawn-out conversation with a director. Like, we talked like most days for an hour, sometimes for about a month before we started. We just kept going through the script and new questions would come up again and again. And I've never had the privilege of doing that. It's been brilliant. And not only did it mean we were very comfortable with each other, and we were able to start saying things, that maybe we didn't like or wanted to change, and we were able to have that already, so we didn't have to work through that part. We weren't being polite anymore. I mean, we're still being nice to each other, but normally that comes maybe just a third or halfway through the shoot. So we had it straight away. It was really nice. There was a trust there.
So we had roughly 5 weeks production, and we split that into 2 sections. So the first section was all location, everything outside with our characters, and then the second half was all studio based, because we had a lot of sets that needed sort of turning around.
Morgan!
It was very cold. It was very, very cold.
Really cold.
It was really, really, really cold.
It's like having a hot water bottle down the back of your pants.
But it was fun. It was really fun.
The sci-fi aspect and the special effects, and Carl's trying to keep it as practical as possible as well, so it's not like you're just doing green screen. I mean, you were actually seeing stuff like the other night when we had that drone. I was like, wow, it's a spaceship! So that awe is actually genuine, some of the time.
They're doing the special effects in various different ways, and really it's about catching a glimpse of something or seeing a hint of something, and it really, your mind does the rest.
So Artem are a special effects house which catered to really, really big productions and also to very independent productions like ourselves. And they are basically like a one-stop shop for all practical effects, to wire work, to explosions, to gunfire, to squibs.
And obviously alien making.
Everything.
I think they'd actually create you actors, birth you actors if you ask them to.
And we really enjoy working with them because they're such a great team. They know what you want and they know how to achieve it within the time, within the budget.
But they're just always on it, always very dedicated, and very passionate about what they do. They're brilliant.
So we're all aware of what's happening, okay? Right now, we're going to shoot up looking into the trees. First drone movement. The drone movement's going to change a little bit from what we talked about. It's going to move from one end of a wood, come across, pan back up, and then rise. We'll get that behind our cast, which is on a Steadicam. Then we'll turn around and we'll do the drone again, but we'll get the lights flashing in front of their face.
I can see the big gem ball light. Is that where you are? Correct. Can you see this laser line? Yes, I can see your laser. Okay, so follow that line as you would directly towards the gem ball basically, and I'll give you a stop mark when you're up.
So we knew we had to have a feasible, cost-effective and workable solution to recreate these UFOs. In terms of production and in terms of budget, we needed something that was easily portable, easily set up, and also something that looked good as well.
And we had all these ideas of zip wires, just using cranes, but we wanted the lights to actually move quite impossibly.
So we came up with the idea of affixing lights to a drone.
That kind of was the core essence of the design of the UFOs, because once we had the light flashing through the trees, our visual effects guys knew that when they had the CGI drone later on the road, well, it can't look far away from what it does in the forest. So, but that could also have been a curse, so we really pumped loads of smoke in, so it really concealed it, so we were safe. The idea behind the scene is that it's a proper UFO experience, like we're behind our actors the whole time, so that you're seeing what they're seeing.
For the road encounter, we had to find a location that looked American and had certain elements that fitted in with our storyline.
Anything, they're just about that big and like marbles, maybe smaller.
So we found a business park, which obviously was a private road, and this helped massively because then we didn't have to close off the roads, have permits.
Then our second drone scene on the road is much more involved than the forest scene. That's where it was like, right, visual effects are going to have to create our orb, because we can't film the light on the drone. You fly the drone much higher than what you need to. You just beam the light down, and then we added our visual effects UFO just much lower within the vicinity of the light spill, so it felt like light was coming from every direction.
Set. Thank you, we're set. And action. One more, let's go, running reset.
Resetting, yeah. Still rolling.
Last one.
Yeah, tilt back a little bit more.
It's too low. Set. And action. And cut there, thank you.
I kind of love shooting like that because it really puts you on the edge of, oh my god, it's now or it's this or nothing, or now or never. That kind of attitude, I think, makes you come up with the better decisions. And it's always on the go as well, as you've got battery. You've got seconds of battery left, so you're like, we've got to get this now, and then that's it. You know, you have to get it. So I love that kind of energy, and it helps the cast. I always believe when the crew are like that, I think the cast feel it as well, and it makes them, you know, perform much more, you know.
364, take 7, aim marker.
Running up. Speed of mark. Speed mark. That's it. Oh, they've gone off your paper back, Steve, doing everyone's work. No? That. Thank you. Alright, and action, Ed. Okay, out breath. And sit. Hey! Hey! Oh, thank God. Help us! Hey! 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 Oh! Cut there. Cover.
I'm so sorry. It's still a little bumpy at some point, no?
Can we have playback from A? Thank you. Set and action. Cut. Cut there. And move. Okay. Mark it. All right, same again, please. Thank you. And action. Cut. Cut there.
Cut there.
Reset and check playback, please.
First positions, please, guys.
Cut right there.
It's great you get that. You move with that. Happiness? Happiness. Great.
Good.
Moving on.
Cool. Good. All right. So thank you. We've brought back. We're going to turn around. So we're just going to cheat the angle ever so slightly. So let's keep Nicholas warm. We're just going to move around. We'll redress and relight and carry on straight where we left off.
We're just catching that, really.
Yeah,
we will probably carry on. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Shot 2 would be exactly the same but in front. Cool. Yeah. But we'd probably cheat the angle a bit. Yeah. Go this way. Carry Maisie. Then he stops. He looks, hears a noise, and we just look as well. Nothing's there. And he carries on. And then shot 3 is grant us the same move, but we are looking past his double. Yeah. Nice and low, that's it. So we're at there and we follow him round and we just keep the chest of past Kenneth in frame.
Does he turn here as well?
No.
He just walks back.
He just walks here.
Just walk. Okay.
And then we cut. Then we get you redressed, swapped, and then we start with you in the forest, like frozen, and on action, just suddenly you react to the daylight. And we do like something in post, some sort of visual effect. So we go from that, merge it perfectly. Suddenly it's a bit of a glow. It's a different sound. And you're just like,
and it's silent in this place as well, isn't it? Or is it the real sound?
I mean, yeah, it sounds weird.
So I think it's kind of like slow walk.
Yeah, it's all in his head, it's not right. And it's glowy a bit. And he looks around and Billy's gone. Obviously, Ray's gone.
They're gone.
So then
the truck's not there.
And as you're looking over there, your double walks. And that's where we're going to shoot you. Then you look, we'll give you an eye line and you follow your past self walking. And that's where we just move a bit. We'll freak you out, and then Billy's hand is going to come in and grab you there. Which is another double.
And because of the 1 minute 2.
Who'd you see?
We're going steady after this, aren't we? Let's be set up. Sorry, what? Laura in the basement. On action, just be blinded by the lights, lift your hand a bit and stay around.
All right, camera set. Still rolling. Thank you. Rain on.
Rain on. Rain on.
Teal up. And action. Okay.
Okay, cut there.
Cover.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's all. You look good now.
Two shot, these two. So we're thinking of...
Two shot. At the beginning.
I'm probably just going to let it run. Maybe we'll add slightly wider lens. Slightly wider lens.
I think the lens we can try, but
We can. Let's keep practicing. We'll get it. So what about?
yeah.
Right. Come round, and he ends on his line.
Yeah.
And then I noticed you started to come back, which is really nice. And if we come back, we'll be right for Billy, and then we'll be right for Noah as he says his line. Then before he leaves, pan left back to Ray, and come back to ones, because he leaves, and we stay on these two. Might be really nice.
And another one of them, please. And light. See a light distance, mesmerizing. Set. Okay. Action. Okay, from the top again. Action. And off. And one more flop. And cut.
Cut that. Cut that. Carl's happy.
I was thinking earlier, and I was thinking.
that was no, but we actually got it.
Oh, right,
I think.
okay.
I mean, yeah, the last one was.
Yeah, last one's brilliant.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Right, so
Reverse.
around. All right. Wonderful. We brought back. So we're going to do reverse, and this is Olivia taking
one.
going to get you on the other pages.
Not too bad, you can read actually.
Do you want?
I
do you want
would.
it
I
like
would
this?
push this one out.
Or like this?
I reckon. So if you're standing facing this way,
Hey folks, can we take
that's
up
it.
a table and
You'd
chairs?
naturally,
Please, thank you.
we're going to be there.
See you again.
Laura? Yeah, we might as well shoot it just because I run it.
Yeah, you can get his arms into the window. We don't really take all these pictures. Right. That's good.
So essentially, the scene where Olivia transcends through space and time and all of that and goes into kind of like a strange version of her own house, we kind of coined the concept that it was called the 3D channel.
Like channel meaning in her head, 3D meaning they'd created a 3D environment in her head.
So Olivia can witness what went on in the past.
The way I always saw it was she's The beings they've created this house for her in her head. And the reason why we see space, the reason why she zooms out isn't because she's traveling there. For me, it's because that's what she's feeling. She's feeling everywhere at once. She feels as big as the universe. In her mind, she suddenly feels at one with everything. The whole idea is that because it's in her head, the house is emotionally connected to her feelings and her emotional state. You'll notice walls crack and the house creaks whenever she's sad or whenever she sees something shocking. The house will creak more, and when she's concentrating, it will go quiet. The house will be more quiet. So I always wanted that idea that she is the house.
When I was reading the 3D channel scene, Carl had really cleverly made sure that the reader wasn't confused or lost, which I think is so essential, because this can definitely confuse you when you're reading it.
Hello. Yeah, so we're trying to figure out, so there's the camera. Laura's going to be here.
Carl kind of came up with the idea that we weren't going to rely on CGI, that we would do this practically, and it was kind of like a bit mind-melting to kind of get your head around that, because obviously we had to shoot inside looking into the past, but obviously we couldn't build two sets, so we actually had to just redress the same set for the past and also for this so-called 3D channel. And with the use of doubles and clever camera work, we could actually imitate that the scene was happening before your eyes, before the in front of the window that Olivia was looking out from.
Oh, so I've said to her, it says don't go.
Don't go.
Yeah.
You've shouted and then you've run. Then you've gone to the hallway window and you've seen her go down, which already shot.
Yeah.
And then you've run downstairs.
Yeah.
And you've run to sprint to this window, so we'll get you coming in. Our cameras would be outside the window, looking into the hallway. And outside there, we would dress it up so it's that 3D channel. She sees herself going. That means we had to have an Olivia double. We shot over her shoulder so that Olivia's essentially looking out the window into the house at herself in the past as her and Ray leave the house.
Love you too, sweetheart. Won't be long, just a couple hours.
And then there you go. Come to the monitor, I can show you what we need to do.
And we'll probably need two pairs.
And then we done the same for the upstairs. That stuff just included Maisie at her desk. She hears the door knocking, and then she goes upstairs, and Kenneth comes up.
She looks through and sees Maisie sitting there. So the angle is...
We didn't need a double now because she's not looking in at herself, so we just had Laura as Olivia looking in through the window. It sounds really complicated, but it was actually, when you're doing it, it was actually very simple. I think that's because of the planning we had. It wasn't simple at the start. I mean, shooting that stuff required me to just be glued to the script and be glued to the storyboards and just be continuously figuring it out. But
when Olivia comes in.
So maybe Olivia steps in and then the girl comes out.
Well, the time is so that she watches Olivia, the girl go, watches her, then she leaves the room. Then she's got to get from her bedroom window, run.
Okay.
So she's to that window. By that point, she'll be right upstairs.
All right,
yeah?
cool.
And then at the end of the shoot, we redressed the house into Olivia's headspace where the past is revealed to her. We took not all the furniture out, but we took like a lot of living stuff. So this furniture was there, but it didn't look lived on. We didn't want any creases in any bed or sheet or anything. We didn't want any imperfections in anything. We kind of just wanted it like it's fake. You know, it's all very much a projection, a bit like a dream. How if you really look around, but then I don't know, I have weird dreams. It had to be calming. You had to feel it's a bit like a spa room, like one of these steam rooms that have the lights. There could be steam in there. You could probably sit there in a towel and just chill. But you wouldn't want to do that with the crew there.
Also, I think let's just put this edge as your edge of frame left. I know we don't have that, but it could be some maybe something.
I think we shot 33 frames per second, so that it just takes the edge off reality, so that she's slightly slower, only a fraction slower. So everything she does isn't slow motion, but it just is odd.
But maybe if you were doing a transition shot, I'd go from the other side.
If I was going from feet to head, sort of
Yeah,
thing.
go.
Obviously we had the Steadicam, but there was a rig which could turn with Bart's phone, so he could turn the camera sort of on its axis, so we'd never go all the way upside down, but just to give it, you know, when the camera turns, we can give a little bit more of a weird, floaty, almost like a zero gravity feel.
So, on action, it's off. So, action slowly comes up.
The other one there.
We really slowly pull back, maybe twice as slow as we've done. Go around there. There's still lights coming up, and now it's on. You see Maisie, and then it's going to gradually fade.
And folks, that is a wrap on Transients.
Well done. This is not cool.
Thank you.
Another one.
Well done.
This has been probably, actually this has been my greatest experience.
Really?
Yeah, I fucking love making this film.
Yeah, I think that's as good as it's going to be. We just need Carl in to see if he likes the curtains, how they are, kind of slightly covering it.
Slightly open and fractured.
Oh, yeah.
I absolutely love working with Ben Loudon and the guys at Viridian Effects who do all the CGI in the movie. I don't know, they just do so well. They're really hard workers, truly dedicated. You know, I try not to do too much CGI in a film. I try and do as much practically as possible. But it's nice to know that if we have got to rely on CGI for this bit, at least I know it's in good hands. At least I feel really safe.
It was wonderful working with David Stone Hamilton again on this, because he is just such a genuine, lovely person to work with. He understands the vision, he understands Carl's process of, you know, writing to music and having a very strong sense of the score in his head already, and he kind of works on that and builds on that.
Great, let's move on. Bar 25, Milton, please.
So while I'm writing it, not only am I thinking of the edit and how it's all going to look, I'm thinking of the music and how it's going to sound, and I write to soundtracks, so I've got a DNA forming in my brain, and then me and David will actually start talking over Skype, and I'll send him like a playlist of soundtracks that exist, that this is the tone we're going to go down, this is the kind of genre of music we're going to try and play with, and I like these instruments and all this sort of thing, and then David replies and says, we'll try this, we'll try that, and what do you think?
That's it, that's okay, this will be 25.
The actors are the heart of the film, the cameras are the eyes, the sounds the ears, and the music is the soul.
It's always good working with Bart because he has such a strong vision that doesn't clash with Carl's. It actually just fluidly blends into this one vision. If you pause the film at any point, there's a really strong vision in terms of cinematography and lighting that is just really, really striking, and I feel like Bart is really in tune with Carl's vision.
Then we drive through, we hear the dog, as we go through him, and then and then somewhere here, and then he goes, oh, Genghis.
Pure professional working relationship, and I absolutely love that. You know, it's really nice. But I think the key thing with me and Bart is trust. It's that there's trust there.
I really like Carl. I mean, he's young, and the benefit of that is actually he's so uncynical. It's really refreshing, and it gives you a bit of a boost, like spiritually. You're just like, ah. It's uplifting, and he's enthusiastic and focused, and just like an overall generally lovely energy to be around, and has a laugh. But he's very connected to the actors.
He's very, very much an actor's director. He allows the actors to basically get on with it. But he's very clear on what he wants, and he's storyboarded the whole piece, and he's almost got the edit in his head. Very approachable. He's wonderful to work with.
I've actually spoken to the rest of the cast about it, and we all feel that he knows exactly when we need support and guidance and when to let us play, essentially.
Carl's great. He's got a very clear idea of what he wants it to be. He's not precious about it. He knows exactly what he wants, though.
Carl's lovely. He's just so calm, and he's just very open, and he kind of really makes you feel like it is a collaborative process. He wants to capture the truth of the scene, so in a way, to him, the dialogue isn't set in stone. It's more like what your character really, really feels. So he's really letting you own the character.
He knows exactly what he wants visually. He's a real cineast, and if things are not going right, he'll then come in with his ideas about it and stuff. So he's not wedded to a certain idea from the get-go. He's prepared to give you leeway as an actor, which is great because it means that you feel more relaxed on set.
Especially with a piece like this that is so heavy. He he brings a lot of light to it, and it's like working with your friends.
Me and Charlotte have made all these short films together, so it started with us. Even though she's not always there on set with me, by my side, which does feel weird, she kind of is there because it's all happening. She's keeping all this shit going. Couldn't do it without Charlotte at all.
It was really wonderful working on this project. The cast and the crew were just amazing to work with. But it was also that sense of community and that sense of heart that this whole project had.
This is a video, isn't it?
The crew were just so great. All the cast were great.
The blue one has gone straight up.
And really thankful to Goldfinch Studios. We really owe a lot to them. It was a dream, really, I think, from my point of view.
I'm just really thankful for the team and the crew and everybody who put so much into this project and made it happen.
Turn the dial.
Lens caps on, Ben.